Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. I am back from vacation and I have a couple of stories to catch up on. But since we just came off of a whole slew of all viewer question episodes, I'm going to use that slot today first for an announcement. Actually two, and one I think you're going to like very much. Now the first is, as you might recall, I'm trying to get to 10,000 followers on Twitter. And when I do, there'll be 24 hours straight at that very moment that it, kicks over to 10,000 followers of answering questions from you that have to do with entertainment. Please, no personal questions. Some of you very wisely said I should put some parameters on this offer. But once again, once I reach 10,000 followers on Twitter, there will be 24 hours of questions. You can ask me anything about the entertainment business, any field that you would like, and I'll do my best to answer in 120 characters or less. But the big announcement today is that you might have seen the 2000th episode celebration that I uploaded just before I went away, which featured a number of you talking about why you watch beyond the trailer. And I was very happy with the way it turned out, and a number of you were very happy with the way it turned out. Some of you even saying that you regretted not handing in a video so that you could participate. Well, good news for you, because we're going to do this now on a regular basis. I loved the video as it turned out, as I said, but I also loved having you guys, you, the BTT viewers, the BTT community, be represented on this channel. So this is going to be a monthly segment. It won't take as long to go up because now there's an editor in place who will handle this. Clayton Ashbury, he did a great job, I think, we can all agree, on that 2000th episode celebration. So the topic this time, you have a week from today to get it in. So that includes a weekend. So I'll tell you the rules on how to hand it in just a moment. And for those of you who participated in the 2000th episode, you already remember. But I'm just going to let everybody know, because as I said, a number of you said you wished you could have participated. And also as a refresher. So the subject: why are you excited or not excited to see Big Hero 6? I just want to know your thoughts about the film and how you feel about it going into that. You can be as pro Big Hero 6 or as negative Big Hero 6 as you want. This is going to be a very honest piece that's going to try and represent all the opinions and attitudes out there about the movie. So the way you hand it in. All right, so make a video of yourself and try to keep it short. Be kind to Clayton because he has to go through all these videos. I'm going to watch them too, of course. But if you make them too long, it's just going to slow down the process, and poor Clayton will be spending too much time editing this video because it's his job. We don't want to take advantage of him. So keep it short, and also if you've seen the 2000th episode video, or if not, go check it out now, you'll get an idea of how much material will be used from each person. So you'll know that if you go and make a 2-minute video, we're still not going to use 2 minutes. It's going to be somewhere, 30 seconds or under. So keep that in mind. So what you do is you make a video of yourself, shoot it however you would like, and then upload it to your YouTube account unlisted. Then send me at my email address, grace@gracerandolph.com. I'll put it up here at the bottom, grace@gracerandolph.com. Send me the link to that YouTube video, and then I will take care of it from there, and so will Clayton. And the reason I'm saying this is because I don't want you to send me MOV files. Some of you did this last time, and I had to write you back and say, you have to upload this to YouTube. I don't want to get a virus on my computer. This is my work computer. It's where I log into all my accounts. So please, don't make me try. I'm not going to download your video. So you won't put me in any danger, but your video just won't be considered for this final product, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. So please submit it properly. So again, film a video of yourself talking about Big Hero 6, why you're excited about it, what you hope it will entail, or why you're not excited about it, or why you're worried about it. And then upload it to YouTube on your account, unlist the video, and then send me the link to that video at gracerandolph.com. Don't make it private, just make it unlisted so that I can see it. All right, so I'm very excited for when that will come out, and that video will come out by the end, right around the beginning of October. So we're giving Clayton about two weeks turnaround on these because last time a number of you sent in videos, and so we want to make sure he has the time to properly make this and represent you guys for those of you who send in. So I'm very excited about this, and I hope you are too, and I think this is going to be a great new exciting addition to the BTT lineup of shows, and I hope you agree. All right, so that's the first story, which is really an announcement. So let's move into what I missed while I was away. It wasn't any huge news stories, although some of you might disagree. Some of you might be like, what are you talking about, Grace? It was announced officially that Dwayne Johnson is Black Adam. That's huge news. And I would say, maybe not. I have some concerns. But I will say that between Black Adam and Shazam, as it was reported that Dwayne Johnson was choosing between, Disney was like, not Disney, sorry, Warner Brothers was saying, Dwayne Johnson, we just want you involved in this project. You can pick, we have no personal ideas which direction we want you to go in. You can be Shazam or you can be Black Adam. And I would have to say that Dwayne Johnson, considering the choices he had, chose wisely. I feel it's like, for those of you who are Indiana Jones fans, as you might recall, The Last Crusade, when they have to choose which is the cup of Christ. And you can choose wisely or poorly. And I think if he had chosen Shazam, he would have had all his skin fall off and he would have turned into a skeleton because it was that bad a choice for him. I think that Dwayne Johnson does that all the time. He's done that kind of a role where he's like a big kid. And I think playing the anti-hero is an interesting challenge for him. Can he pull it off? I don't know. I think I'm still a little bit burned from Hercules, which I was very disappointed about. As you might recall from my trailer reviews, I thought that movie looked fantastic, only to then get into the theater and find out not only it was a children's movie, but that it wasn't that good a children's movie to boot. So I'm a little bit like gun shy now with Dwayne Johnson, although I still do like him personally quite a bit. So I'm rooting for him, but I'm just nervous as to whether or not he can pull off this anti-hero. Also, I'm very curious if DC can pull off Black Adam. Let's discuss, because I think a lot of you aren't familiar with Black Adam, which is something DC is quickly moving to rectify. You might have noticed that the Lego account put out I tweeted a picture of Black Adam from the upcoming, I think, Batman 3, and they're like, oh, can you smell what Black Adam is cooking to celebrate Dwayne Johnson in the role? So expect to see that. I think there was a DC Nation short that also just aired featuring Black Adam, and expect to see a lot more Black Adam. I mean, his movie won't be coming out until after 2016, so they have time to lay the groundwork for this character, but expect to see him have a bigger role to play in the pages of DC Comics and animated movies. I wouldn't be surprised if they're fast-tracking a Black Adam animated film. Just everything they can do to raise the profile of this character, who is, I think, not particularly well known, even to your casual comic book reader. So, as I said, let's discuss. Let me fill you in on a character that I think could be quite exciting, but is also definitely controversial. Now, Black Adam was the Shazam before Billy Batson. And so they have he starts out as the villain. And he started out as an Egyptian character. And as you might recall, I thought that Dwayne Johnson actually missed an opportunity playing Apocalypse over in the X-Men franchise. I think that would have been a much better choice for him. And I think that, Apocalypse was something that Dwayne Johnson could play in his sleep. He's a big leader, he makes grandiose speeches, etc., etc. Whereas Black Adam is quite the cunning character. He's, intellectualized to some degree. He's more of a Loki. He's an anti-hero, because as I said again, he starts out as a villain. Will he start out as a villain here? I hope so. But also, do people want to see a villain redeemed and turned into an anti-hero in movie number 1? And do they want to see Dwayne Johnson as a villain? These are all very difficult questions. And I think either way, it's going to be a leap of faith on behalf of Warner Brothers and DC, and even Dwayne Johnson. So he starts out as an Egyptian character, but then, as time goes on, the character is revamped to come from a fictional country, as they so often do in comics. And he ends up coming from a country, and they move it to somewhere else in northern Africa, so it's near Egypt, and it's called, I want to make sure I get it right, Kandak. Now, of course, I'm sure someone will say I'm mispronouncing it, but that's the problem with comics, because you never quite know how to pronounce anything in comics because you always are just reading the words. They're very rarely said out loud, especially the character like Black Adam, who's never really been front and center. So he comes from the fictional North African country of Kandak. But this is also my perception of the character. I've always seen him as someone who represents the Middle East. Kandak is very much a country that has a lot of the problems of the Middle East, the pluses and minuses. And Black Adam has struggled with how to rule his people. Does he want to have a dictatorship, or does he want to try and be more of a democratic country? A lot of the actual, growing pains we've seen in Egypt, a lot of the conflict that actually is taking place in that country. And so that's happened in Kandak. And I've always thought that Black Adam was a great character to represent the Middle East. He's an anti-hero, but he has become heroic. And I was reading the character when he had ISIS. Now, of course, ISIS is being used very differently right now in the news by a real-life pro-life organization, and what it calls to mind is quite horrible. So that's going to be another problem, I think, for the Black Adam character, is that, how do you take a character that's so interwoven into not only Egyptian, but I think, as I said, Middle Eastern practices without pulling in that news cycle. People want to relax when they go and see a movie. But then again, this is a great opportunity to maybe explore that other side. And it's a very touchy situation, one that I don't particularly want to get into right now, and I'm sure the DC maybe doesn't want to get into. But maybe, that'll be a missed opportunity, and it will just take out all the bite. I mean, if you can't, if people are going to watch your movie and know that you had a missed opportunity and that you should have addressed something, there's really no getting around it. And that's one of the difficulties with the character of Black Adam. But I think if it's handled correctly, it could be a positive thing for audiences in the Middle East to have this heroic character to look up to. But anyway, Isis was a female character that, she was another character in the DC world, but they revamped her. A lot of revamping going on at DC to, still to this day with New 52, much to my annoyance. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation, which we've had a couple of times by now. But anyway, Isis was a character, she was someone who was given to Black Adam as a gift by, not a great organization. Intergang, though, not a Middle Eastern organization there. And Black Adam was disgusted by her being used in this way and killed her captors at Intergang and freed her. But then she was like, well, thanks, Black Adam. But at the same time, she was also she was Egyptian. He's from Kandak. But she was at this point, and she was like, but I don't like the way you're running your country. You're being mean to your people. Let me help make you a better person. And that was a big story arc for him. It didn't end so well, as so often happens with comic book characters, but it was an interesting moment of growth for the character and really moved him into that anti-hero status that he enjoys today. So I'm curious to see where they'll go with this character, how much of a villain he'll be for how long, when he'll make the switch to anti-hero, how will they handle his Middle Eastern background. Is that something that DC wants to get involved with? Despite the fact that, it's difficult, but it could be quite positive if handled correctly. And then also, the final thing I want to say is, where does this leave the character of Billy Batson, aka Shazam? It's supposed to be his movie. It will be called Shazam, I'm assuming, instead of Black Adam. And we don't want to have a situation that happened over with the Thor films, where I think Loki's really co-opted those, and maybe even more than co-opted, taken them over. I know that I certainly enjoy Tom Hiddleston more than Chris Hemsworth at this point, which is not a shot at Chris Hemsworth. I just think the Loki character is more dynamic, more interesting, and just given better things to do. And so we'll see what happens. But Billy Batson, that's a whole other character, having to deal with him going from child to adult. That's also a lot of ground to cover. So how do you flesh out Black Adam at the same time? It's going to be a very difficult situation for Warner Brothers and DC, and I hope that they didn't shoot themselves in the foot by letting Dwayne Johnson choose and having him choose the secondary character. So we'll see what happens. All right, so that's the first news story of the day, and I'm very curious to what you guys think. And I know people have been discussing this while I was away, but I think I brought some new things. I hope I brought some new elements to the conversation as far as you're concerned, so I'm curious to know what you think of them. All right, so the second story that I missed while I was away is that they're making a Frozen short film. It's going to be called Forever Frozen, and it's coming out in 2015. I believe they said spring 2015, but we weren't given a hard and fast date. Now, I wonder what that will come and play in front of, if it will be released theatrically. I think the Pixar opening spots, I believe, are already spoken for, so it's very curious to know what Disney might put that in front of. So we'll see. But as you might imagine, I'm not totally happy with this short film. They had made the announcement when they were talking about the making of Frozen, and this hour-long special that aired while I was away. I watched it, and I thought that the special was pretty good. I applaud them for being honest about the script changes they made to accommodate changing Elsa from villain to hero. But I wish they had been a little bit more honest about. I guess they couldn't from a company perspective, but I would have had more respect for them if they'd said, you know what, it was a little last minute, it was a little by the seat of our pants, but we're just really proud of the fact that we recognize this opportunity even so late in the game, and we're able to make the changes. They made it seem like they made this change very early on in the development process, where in reality, and I'll never forget this because Disney made me take down a clip just a few months, like it was like in August or something, or September, right before the movie came out, that featured Elsa being quite villainous. She was sending a snowstorm intentionally down the mountainside to stop anyone from coming up to see her. They never said for sure if she knew who was coming, if it was actually her sister Anna. But that's very down to the wire. So those are very last minute changes, and I just wish they had acknowledged that. But it was a very nice pat on the back, and I do have to admire Frozen Mania. I have to admire. I know while I was away, someone wrote in the comment section and one of the morning movie news, all viewer questions, that I was bullying Frozen, and I said, that's not true. I mean, I have never not acknowledged Frozen's success. It's a very successful film, one of the most successful films, period, not just animated films of all time. And I really would liken it, though, to the Avatar of animated films. And for those of you who are right now furiously typing, that's horrible, how dare you, well, you're doing the same thing that I'm doing, because you're not respecting the incredible fan base for Avatar. And it does exist. A lot of people are quite happy with that film. I think a lot of those people aren't on the internet because they're never really represented in the comment section, or something you might not occur to you, but I've found that a lot of times, particularly when you're talking about mainstream moviegoers, they don't want to get down and dirty on the internet and have these arguments in the comment section, and they usually just keep to themselves on this stuff. So they're like, everyone likes to make fun of Avatar online, I'm just going to stay back. Frozen fandom, I guess because it's mostly, I'm not sure why the Frozen fandom is a little more vocal. Maybe because animation is so vocal online. But anyway, we're getting off track. But Frozen, I'm sorry to say, I still believe this, it's the Avatar of the animated films. And Avatar is the highest grossing film of all time and was Oscar nominated, as didn't get the wins that Frozen did, but they're very, very similar, even down to their blue hues. All right, so anyway, this Frozen, Forever Frozen. I was hoping that things might turn around with the short film, especially because they had more time to work on it, and they knew what they were working with here. But why am I not happy with it? Well, let me tell you what it's about. Well, according to the press blurb from Disney, what's going to happen is that it's Anna's birthday, and Kristoff wants to throw her a birthday party, and Elsa's involved, but it turns out her icy powers are still a problem. I don't know why. They never seem to be that much of a problem, actually, ever in the film, when you think about it. Just they freaked people out. But once everyone becomes accepting, I mean, everyone seemed pretty happy to me, ice skating in the middle of the palace, so I don't understand what the problem could possibly be. Let's see what the Disney writers can possibly come up with to create these hijinks that they feel are so necessary for this short. And I wonder how short it will be. But anyway, I am glad that they're getting the characters back out there so soon. So why do I have a problem with this? Isn't this just a wonderful birthday story? Well, it's something that I had a problem with in the original film. Well, first, when I hear a story like this, I'm like, well, what is the age demographic that you're going for here? Because this seems like a story for very small children. But even there, I think there's a missed opportunity to really capitalize on the fact that something that so many of you like to point out all the time is that Elsa is not a Disney princess. She is a Disney queen. She is the ruler of a kingdom. And while Anna might be hopelessly lost when it comes to any kind of authority, I'll never forget her infamous decision to leave Hans in charge of her kingdom, who she just met while she went away, despite, I'm sure, having a number of advisors who took care of the kingdom before Elsa's coronation. So that was really odd. But you would think that maybe Elsa would have maybe better instincts when it came to ruling. Although one of my biggest problems with Elsa is when she threw off her crown, considering the fact her parents died, doing their duty for their country, and that there's a big responsibility with being queen. You have to take care of your subjects, your country, etc. And to just toss that away, I felt was really a moment where I maybe not like the character. And I know a number of you will defend her, but you just have to understand that's where I'm coming from. So I think the short story would have been a great opportunity to maybe show a little bit of what it takes to rule a kingdom, and to maybe just start to begin to introduce to audiences of all ages that being a king and queen isn't just birthday parties, etc. There's actually some rulership elements to go along with it. Now, of course, today, I think the most at least here in the West, the most well-known royal family is the British royal family. And they don't really do very much in terms of ruling. They do mostly plan dinner parties, but they do a lot of very important charity work as well. But that wasn't always the case. They did actually used to rule their country. And, Elsa is not a current character. She actually does rule Arendelle. So I think that to, show that kind of authority and the responsibility would be a really nice introduction to maybe any little boys and little girls who might be interested in perhaps someday going into politics, etc., into business. I think that would be really great. It reminds me of another short that came out of Disney. It was from their Disney Princess Tales. I have the exact name here. Disney Princess Enchanted Tales. It came out a few years ago, and this featured Sleeping Beauty and Jasmine. It was such a flop commercially that they never made the follow-up stories that they had planned. But I actually purchased this or rented it. I forget. It was a long time ago. I was little. And they were like, Princess Aurora, because of her family is out of town, she must take over the royal duties. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. I guess I was hoping she would be like Daenerys in Game of Thrones. I was like, oh, this is going to be so great. Well, of course, I had no Game of Thrones reference at the time, but that's kind of what I was looking for. Instead, Princess Aurora had to plan a dinner, a luncheon. I guess that's what it was, a luncheon. She had to overlook the staff. And then she had to talk to, a few peasants, but, not in a kind of a ruler way, more like, a first lady way, which, there's a lot of, dignity in that role as well, but it wasn't the leadership role that I was looking for. And I remember being profoundly disappointed that this is what Disney felt being a queen entailed. And so I feel this is another missed opportunity. And for all the growth they made about having two sisters be the lead, putting the romantic stuff on the back burner and actually talking about how love at first sight is not real, etc. For all those gains that have been made, in this other regard, they're still stuck back in like 1950s, 40s logic, and it's just really disappointing. So didn't like that either. All right, so I'm curious to what you guys think of this. Being a ruler isn't like being the leader of the House of Downton Abbey. It actually entails quite a bit of responsibility, etc. So I'm curious, what do you guys think of the way this short sounds? Do you see where I'm coming from, or you're like, Grace, whatever, I want to go to Anna's birthday party and I don't care. I'm never going to be a queen and I'm not interested in those different jobs that you talked about, so I'm just going to enjoy it. All right, so let's go to the third story. We're going to wrap up our episode today, and this has to do with the Toronto Film Festival, which is going on right now. So I wanted to tell you some of the films that are competing here because Toronto is a really key destination in terms of Oscar runs. So I want to talk about some of the films, a ton of films actually are playing here that will never get any recognition. And I think that it really shows that, it's not just enough to play at Toronto, you have to have the hype going into Toronto. And actually, if you go to the video description, I have a link to the actual list of films that are playing at Toronto this year, so you can see that there are a ton of films that have pretty big name talent attached that we've never heard of, and I think probably won't, because the list of films I'm about to go through that are competitive is so long, there's no room for these other movies, and I think it's shaping up to be a very interesting Oscar season. All right, so The Judge opened the festival. That's the Robert Downey Jr., Robert Duvall film, and that is trying to get some Oscar momentum. I think that's a very tall order for them. I don't see it happening considering all the competition we're about to go through, but as you can see, they're trying. And it did seem to have a favorable reaction from the audience at Toronto, but I just don't think it has a strong enough hook to compete with, a lot of these other movies. So that played there. Then 99 Homes. This is a movie directed by Ramin Barani. He actually directed At Any Price, a film that I really liked, I think from last year or the year before that, starring Dennis Quaid and Zac Efron. If you have a chance, go watch it. It's very well done. But this film has a lot more momentum. It stars Michael Shannon. Many of you will be very happy. We had a big debate about Michael Shannon and whether or not he's still a viable actor with the Young Ones trailer. So it looks like, as long as you don't give up, more luck can come your way. And speaking of someone else who needs luck, Andrew Garfield also stars. And of course, as we've been talking about, he's been having some problems with the Spider-Man franchise. So 99 Homes, this is a movie that does have buzz. It is impressing people, and something you should look out for. So that's on the slate. Then Foxcatcher bowed out last year, as we've discussed, but come back this year with a vengeance. It's a huge front-runner. It's also making an appearance at Toronto. Then we have The Imitation Game. That's the Benedict Cumberbatch movie about Alan Turing, who broke the German code, the whole Enigma, films like that, Bletchley Circle. He's the one who began all that. And then there's also something very tragic that happens to him. Don't want to give it away. The trailer doesn't even want to hint at it. But that's also Keira Knightley stars, and that has quite a bit of Oscar buzz. Although, also I think the producers have been very smart to kind of rope in Deadline, and Deadline's really campaigning for that film itself, the industry, website. So that's getting them a lot of buzz. Then also Maps to the Stars. That's the David Cronenberg film where Julianne Moore won Best Actress at Cannes. Robert Pattinson also stars. That's very exciting for him. Continuing his collaboration with Cronenberg. It looks like it's going to pay off this time, where it didn't really work so well with Cosmopolis. So Maps to the Stars, also big movie there. Then Men, Women, and Children is playing. That's the Jason Reitman film. It stars Ansel Elgort. Big cast, Adam Sandler, etc. But Ansel Elgort's the one getting all the heat off of this, considering how popular he was in The Fault in Our Stars. And it seems to be working so far. So we'll see how that works out. Then also Mr. Turner. This is a Mike Leigh film. It's about the famous landscape painter Turner, and Timothy Spall, that's the name of the actor. He won Best Actor at Cannes. Very interesting decision. Must be a very interesting film. So that's something to look out for as well. That's a little bit of a dark horse contender, but it is on people's radar, especially with that Cannes win. As you might recall, that really helped Nebraska stay competitive throughout the Oscar season, when it also debuted pretty early. Then Nightcrawler, that's the film I'm in love with Jake Gyllenhaal. It's from Tony Gilroy's brother, Dan Gilroy. That looks very, very good to me. That's competing. Then also Jon Stewart's Rosewater. We've seen that trailer. That's about the Canadian journalist who's a prisoner in Iran. Then St. Vincent, they really feel this is a contender. This is the Bill Murray film with Melissa McCarthy. It looks very good to me, but I have a hard time believing it can compete with these other films. But we'll see. But they are making a go for it, and it does have some momentum. Not, as I said, when you go and you look at this list, you'll see that there are a lot of films that have no momentum and no recognition. But then look, for instance, next is The Theory of Everything. That's the Stephen Hawking film with Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones. She plays Felicia Hardy. The Theory of Everything, that film looks, doing this all off the top of my head just from back from vacation, so please forgive me. Theory of Everything, I think that looks quite good, and that's a very strong competitor as well. But then also Whiplash is playing. That's a huge competitor. That's the Miles Teller film with J.K. Simmons about a jazz drummer. Extremely competitive. Look for that to have a lot of momentum. And then, of course, Wild with Reese Witherspoon and also Jean-Marc Vallée. He's the director of Dallas Buyers Club. This is his follow-up film, and that film looks very good as well. It doesn't have as much heat as these other movies, but I think it's still on the board. And then also Pixar's Lava is also in competition, or at least being shown at Toronto. That's a short film that I believe is going to play next year, but I guess they're debuting it this year in the smaller circuit, maybe to make it a competitor for the Oscars in the shorts category, short animated shorts, and maybe that could give some much needed momentum to when they put it in front of, I believe it plays in front of Inside Out or The Good Dinosaur, something next year. Those movies need all the help they can get on people's radar in the increasingly competitive animation market. So that's how Toronto is shaping up. We'll know pretty soon. I'll cover in the next few days what films got a lot of heat out of there and a lot of attention, but that's the ones going in that have heat. And so I'm curious to know if any of these are films that you're rooting for, and what do you think of the fact of how I tweeted an article about how the red carpet has become so politicized and really just a tool of the award season from Vanity Fair. Very interesting article. And so I'm curious to what you guys think about how this is being handled, and what do you think of film festivals and the fact that there are a lot of winners or front runners are decided before the festival even begins and anyone's even seen these films. And also, many of these films aren't debuting here. They've already played at many other festivals. And do you think that it's bad for these movies to go to every festival and take up spots that maybe could go to some of these other movies that need attention? Does a movie need to play every festival to truly be a contender? So that's today's morning movie news. I'm a fresh one all ready for you now that I'm back, and that we'll continue with that now that I don't have any travels on the horizon, I believe. So I'm very excited to go over some more news as we begin to ramp up the fall and winter movie seasons. Thanks so much for watching.